All right, we are live. Okay, I'm here with three of the members of IS. Got John, Brian, and Laura. We'll be talking some music with them. All right. Had a little hiccup on my side. So, all right, okay. Well, going back, I remember when I first started doing reviews years ago, I got a CD from you guys, with your second one. And at the time, I wasn't expecting any kind, came up to a very slow start for me reviewing. So it's like when I was going, okay, this is gonna be cool. I don't know this band, and when I put it in, it was like going, I was like, these guys are really cool sound. And so it was like going, it was nice to see a band that was being progressive, because a lot of bands, I hate to say it, they're stuck in the 70s. Even if they have modern production, they're still stuck in the 70s. And it was nice to see a band that was taking that influence, but then going further, and especially like the first songs right on that album, it was like it took modern influences and just added into the mix, like I think progressive rock is supposed to do. And a lot of bands, like I was saying, a lot of bands were just relying on their past influences, trying to sound like their heroes, rather than taking that and moving forward like you guys did.
Well, yeah, we appreciate that, Ron. I mean, I think it's one of the things we set out to do for sure, was not just sound like a band. I mean, if you want to go listen to the old Yes albums, then you should listen to the Yes albums, Hopefully we sound a little bit, ourselves, but you can tell, I mean, every band has influences, so you're going to be able to tell what our influences are, just like any band. But hopefully we're doing something that's uniquely us as well. So I'm glad that was kind of came through on that album.
Yeah, that I do still listen to that album frequently to this day. It's like, but I gotta admit, there's one album of yours that I go to the most.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
It's a good one. It's a good one. That may be my favorite of ours. Yeah.
Well, it was, I don't know, it was just something about it. And I sent a friend of mine, I was telling him who I was talking to today, and I sent her a copy. I went to YouTube because that's the easiest way to give examples. So I put the first song, and she says, wow, that's a pretty good song, and I said, yeah, I said, this is the whole, I said, go search out the whole album online. And I always tell people, if they like it, go buy it. I said, and if you're, especially if you're in the United States, buy it from the band directly. It's so much, just so much easier for the bands to get the money.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we're new to the Bandcamp game, but we're really loving that format to be able to sell directly from Bandcamp, because even selling from Amazon, for instance, is, you only get a certain amount of money, but Bandcamp's been really great for us, particularly with this Laura's album that just came out.
Right.
So it's been great, and I actually haven't put the old, the Darkened Room, for example, is not on Bandcamp right now, but hopefully as we re-release things, they'll be back on there. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's also a good way, since Bandcamp allows you to stream, it's also a good way that if they're not familiar with your music, they can go and, and check things out and then go ahead and buy.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, that's the one thing, I am going to be doing or trying to get together some people to do a thing of Spotify versus physical media, and because I'm hearing so many bands out there telling me, how basically evil it is because they're not paying you. And so it's like I always tell people, I said, look, I mean, if you're going to use that as a to test the waters to see if you really like it, and then go and buy the physical media, because or if the band only releases an album, digitally, at least get it that way. Don't just rely on Spotify as your source for music.
Right.
I mean, I know a lot of the younger generations, they are, because it's quick and easy to get to, but for me, I'm always going to, like I have back here, I'm always going to be physical media. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at Spotify is like the genie's out of the bottle in a sense. There's no going back to time before Spotify. So what we try to do, and what we've tried to do with Laura's album to some success so far, has been using Spotify as a means for new fans to discover us, and we're asking the folks who already know about us to go to Bandcamp, and it's amazing because people have done that, and we're so grateful that's happened, and we're certainly going to use Bandcamp for the next Diz album. But we've also, right, Laura, like there was somebody who contacted you who heard you on Spotify who's now a big fan. So it happens.
Well, yeah, that's a great way to get your audience in, and then and the ones that actually care about the music, they'll go and buy the CD or the digital download of it. They'll do that. I mean, but if they're, but I've noticed that very few of the younger generation seem to be interested in having a collection of music, because I'd say, unfortunately, the newer music that's coming out, of the mainstream market, it tends to be a little bit, the music just, obviously it's very manufactured, and it's almost like something you could hear on a TV show or a movie. It's like, it's nothing that you're gonna go and grab your CD or if it's on a record, grab that and put it on your player and then, look at everything that way.
At the very least, I feel like the music is being written to be consumed on an individual basis, almost like, the old singles approach rather than album-oriented releases. And so that's part of the challenge there is, if things are being offered up one at a time and there's no sense of it being part of a record or a full release, then it's a little less of an incentive to get the entire collection. It's easier to just cherry pick one song you like from this artist, one you like from that. So I like the old model where you're really committing to an album's worth of material, and there's some cohesion and some kind of focus to that collection of songs, and you really want to enjoy those songs as a whole. You don't want to have just one or two of those songs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's sad, that that it's come to that, because there's a lot of great albums, especially in progressive rock. It's like, because songs tend to either be longer or they're interconnected with each other. So you can't just like you say, cherry pick a certain song, because you get a song and all of a sudden it's supposed to go into the next song, so it kind of has that cutoff. And to me, there's nothing more annoying than listening to a song that has an abrupt cutoff when it's supposed to go into another song. So I mean, that, going back to that I Moved, the first two songs, they're connected to each other, even though they don't sound like each other, but it just one moves into the other. So it's like you can't go, say, hey, the first song here, that's it, and then all of a sudden it cuts off, and it's like, it's kind of like, almost in a way like you're getting like a cliffhanger. It's like, what's going to happen next, and
Right.
you don't know. So,
I think I think I remember the Spotify CEO said something recently, like somebody was asking him about how they pay artists, and he said, well, if artists want to get paid more, they should put more music out, like put more singles out, more things. And it was sort of like a funny quote. I understand what he's saying in one sense, but music that you create for the love of the music and for love of songwriting doesn't just happen. I mean, you don't just wake up one day and write an album of music. I mean, when Laura and I were co-writing Laura's new album, it was like the journey of writing it was special, and writing it together was special. But like, it wasn't like we're gonna finish this song today and put it up on Spotify. We had a vision. We had a vision for the album, and we wanted to meet it. So it's just a different way of looking at music.
Right. And also,
it's also not sorry, it's also not like we and is too, and I'm sure the progressive rock community, we're not like trying to write that hit, trying to write that one song that's going to make it. It tells a story. The album tells a story, and if there are catchy, punchy songs in that story, fantastic. But that's not what you go into it like. Let's write the radio hit. Like, it's the opposite.
Exactly. That's and I think, I forget who I was speaking with when they were talking about the Spotify thing. One of his students was saying, "Oh, but it's free. We can get it free." And then he says, "Okay, that's fine on the consumer end, but us as musicians, we don't get our instruments for free. We don't get our studio time for free if we don't own our own studio. So, it's, we're not, it's like we don't have the disposable money just to put it out on that platform and not get paid. So it's like, they got to understand that." I think if they use that, let's say they own your entire collection, but then they use a streaming service when they're, let's say, like in their cars.
Sure.
You're not going to bring a stack of 20 or 30 CDs into your car.
Right.
That just not.
What about the 5 CD changer? Remember that?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I used to have one of those.
Yeah.
I used to have one of those back in 2004. I had one. I thought that was amazing. But right now, what I use in my car, I have a port, so I can just put all my music on this thing.
Oh, that's great.
But going back to the Spotify thing, I think that's good if you're using it as not an alternative to buying CDs, but in conjunction with, where you own the CD, you pay, basically you pay the artist. Here's just another, it's just going to be a convenient way to listen to the music.
Yeah, I actually had an idea. I think I talked to you, Laura, about this. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, Brian, but I was like, Spotify should do a thing where you can listen to the album a certain number of times, 5, 6, 10, whatever, how many times. But if you want to continue listening, you need to pay something to the artist, like $1 or $2 or something. And then you can listen to it an unlimited amount of time. At least it would be something. But the fact that like someone can listen to, the album, Ron, that you were holding up, Darkened Room, that's been played. That's probably our most played album on Spotify. It's probably well over several 100,000 listens, but the money is nothing. The money is nothing. And it's really a shame. So it just makes you wonder, like, why can't they have a little bit of a different business model, so that the artist can get something back.
Right. Especially if they have a premium version of the thing where you don't get the commercials. So it's like,
right.
Right.
I was going to say, one of the things that's been brought to light with the pandemic, I think, is just how precarious artists' situations are. And I'm sure you can't go across and say every fan gets it, but a lot of the fans, I think, were really reminded in that time that this could all go away and that they have a certain responsibility in that relationship with their favorite artist, that they have to contribute something, or else the musicians can't continue to do what they do. And I know a lot of our fans have really been good about supporting the digital releases we've been doing in Bandcamp. And I think a lot of them are getting it. And I think a lot of them got it before, but it really was a very stark reminder during the pandemic that, we all count on the generosity of our fans to do what we do.
Yep.
Oh yeah. The other thing is when, you mentioned earlier about Amazon, I noticed not every release you buy from Amazon, but every once in a while, a release from Amazon, they give you the MP3 version of the album that you can play on their streaming service, which again it's just more of a convenience than having to lug around all those CDs, or if you're lucky enough to have a car that has a USB port in it, that you can, put in all your music that way too. Granted, it's not the same quality, but when you're in your car, you're not really, when you listen to music, you're not trying to have the quality of music, because especially if you always have noise in your car, whether it's from your AC or passengers, or if you don't have AC and you roll down your windows, you're going to get outside noise. So it doesn't, music quality in the cars is not, but when you get home and you listen to it on your headphones, I listen to everything on my headphones.
Yeah.
That way I get all the music right into my ears, and everything, nothing, disrupting, or the flow of the music, and
better experience that way. You're really getting a very intimate experience, and that's beautiful.
Oh yeah, I think especially progressive rock is best when you hear it on headphones. You get all the everything, things, especially when you're listening to it on the stereo. Again, you're getting from the speakers to your ears. Sometimes you're getting audio distraction. So it's like here you get no distraction. Get to hear exactly everything that be on the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've noticed in our chat room that it's going in and out.
Oh, the audio is going in and out.
No. The audio and video here on the feed is perfect. It's just the chat section is disappearing. Disappearing.
Oh, weird. Oh.
You know, the technology, it's like it works with you some days and other days it doesn't, you know.
Exactly.
But well, let's talk about Laura's new album. I haven't had a chance to hear it, I'll tell you. You know, I didn't we had John, I think she said John said that the stuff got lost in the mail or something like that.
Yeah, I did not follow up, Ron. So that's on me. That's on me. I was supposed to send it later this week and I didn't do it.
Oh, well, you know, I did hear some of it on, you know, like, you know, your YouTube channel, you know, and what I heard, it sounds great.
Thanks.
And I'm really glad that there's a few bands out there when their members do solo albums, it sounds nothing like their band album.
Mm-hmm.
And it, you know, I've been mentioning that a lot, where it's like, you know, the big thing was, you know, back in the late 70s, you know, and into the 80s when Genesis and Phil Collins albums, they sounded the same. And pretty much, I mean,
yeah.
And so it's like I'm always delighted when a solo album comes out from a band and it sounds nothing like the band. You know, you get to hear the individual. You know, you might hear once in a while something that reminds you of it, but you know, nothing like it. And that I really like that when people do that. You know, it makes it because it's almost like, okay, well, you know, we're gonna make it sound like, you know, it's like sound like the band, and so we're gonna make everybody, let's, you know, in the band, let's do a solo album, and it's gonna sound like the band, so we're gonna make, like, you know, four, you know, if you got four members of the band, you're gonna have four extra versions of the band. You know, you're not gonna have it not have actual solo album. Like, it's like,
right.
You know, I don't want to hear the same thing.
Right.
You know?
I don't want to speak for Laura, but I mean, I think the interesting thing is Laura came into the band really outside of the world of progressive rock. So her influences are so diverse and so different in a lot of ways from Tom and John and to different degrees the rest of us. So, you know, it's a matter of, you know, when you put somebody else in the driver's seat and you're trying to work in service to that artist, it definitely takes on a different shape. So, but I should let Laura talk about it.
No, no, thank you for mentioning that, because you're spot on. And I was very new to the prog world when I started singing with Iz, but I have a very extensive musical theater background, which progressive rock can be kind of theatrical. So there's like kindred spirits happening in there. But so what I bring to solo stuff is like progressive rock flavored. Maybe it's got like a little herb or spice of progressive rock, but it's, you know, it's more of an art rock theatrical singer-songwriter thing, I think.
Oh yeah, you know, and I remember when I did get to see you guys live back in 2006 at CalProg out in Southern California. You know, so I do remember that. I mean, that's the one and only time that I got to see you guys, and it was a great show. I mean,
was that the year we did? Was that the year we did In the Cage, or was that the Close to the Edge? I can't remember. Do you remember, Ron, if we played the Genesis medley, or I can't remember?
I think you did.
I think that was the Genesis year, yeah.
I think it was Genesis. It was not Close to the Edge. That was 05.
Okay.
Or
no, No, that was Close to the Edge. Because we did 04. We drove cross country, Laura. And that was the year we did oh no, am I?
I think I got the information here.
Wow, I am so lost.
It's been this long. We have this much of a storied history that we can't pin down.
It's like 17 years.
It was in the cage.
In the cage. Yep. Okay. So it was in the cage. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, then that was a good one.
It was a really good one.
It was a good one.
We should do that again.
We should do it again. I know we should. We have to find the right show to do that because it's it's hard to stick a 20-minute cover in there sometimes.
It's very specific.
Oh yeah, you also did. I just was looking at 2005. I got that.
Oh yeah,
got that one where you did.
Trilogy cover one year.
What was it? You did "I Move" and "Assurance." Those are the songs.
Those are the songs on the CD. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. We did "Close to the Edge" the year after we did the Genesis medley, and I don't even know if there's a recording of it. But it was interesting.
You know the thing is this. Like I was mentioned with a couple other bands, interpretation is what should be. If you do it exactly note for note, there's really that's cool that a band can do that, but it's also nice that if they put in their own interpretation where they take the song, they break it apart and then put it back together as if they were creating the song. I mean, have some, obvious nods to the original, but make it like, if you, whatever cover tune you guys would, let's say you would do, it's going to, you make it sound like it's is, not like is playing someone else. It's like, it's, and I mean, of course you're going to get people that are going to complain about that too. But I think that for me, I like to hear something of a cover song to be, not a, what do you call it? A tribute song,
Right.
Where you, I mean, yeah, you could do, I mean, it's kind of cool, but.
I mean, what do you think about the musical box? What do you think about the musical box?
The
Genesis. Have you seen them, Ron? The Genesis.
Yes, I have. Yeah. I've seen them. Well, I think that for what they're doing, that they're doing they're doing a recreation. So that's okay if they're doing it.
A little different.
Yeah.
Right. Different.
I mean, and it's just the same as with your music. Personally, I don't like going to see a concert where the band is recreating their music note for note, and it sounds exact. Let's say if the song is 4 minutes and 30 seconds, you guys do it exactly 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and it sounds exactly like the album. I want, I like bands that expand on whatever, maybe after they recorded the album, they said, oh my God, I should have put this passage in it, or, something like that. That's where I think live comes into play. For me personally, that now you're going to get your chance to maybe do the song, kind of almost like a director's cut, so to speak. You do it.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe we should have done something like this in the middle part, or add something to the beginning, whatever the case may be. But to play the exact same that it's on the album live, it's like, I just assume personally just stay home and listen to the CD.
Right. Well, with Laura's album, we're contemplating how and when we're going to play it live, because it is conceptual. It is a story in 10 songs, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to do it. Are we going to do it pretty close to the album, or are we going to try some different things? So and I don't know when we're going to do it, but at some point we'll probably try to play it.
Right. Yeah.
There's a certain necessity that comes up with is music, because the recording process is so complicated, and a lot of times we're writing and we come up with great ideas in the moment. We don't want to stifle those ideas, but we haven't quite figured out how we're going to do them live yet. And they get captured in recording, and so sometimes by necessity things evolve a little bit live. But I think also, just as you were pointing out, I mean, if you're a musician, you're going to be in a constant state of growth, and you're going to look back at something you did that was captured in a studio. And, you know, you don't want to be beholden to that, because as you said, you'll have different ideas. Maybe that day you're feeling something a little different. So it's nice to build a little spontaneity into the live performance. So we always try to keep that element in the live shows, where there's, you know, a little bit of improv, certain sections where we can jam out, or certain endings will extend an ending, because, you know, if it's like a very clean ending on a studio album, maybe you want to do something a little more grandiose live because of the live energy. There are always those little places you can kind of tweak the things that you've recorded. So it's nice to leave space for that in a live setting.
Yeah,
you know, that's what I like about the whole thing of live. Is like, it's, you know, you got that, like you were saying, that that room to improv a little bit out and add things, and or maybe even subtract something. Maybe it's like, yeah, well, maybe that just isn't going to work with the energy, you know. So I mean, that's just me. I'm sure there's a lot of people that, oh, you know, they cheer, oh, you did that exactly right there, you know, that point, you know. They're probably like clocking it, okay, 2 minutes 30 seconds, it's going to be that, you know. It's like, that's, I kind of equate that to the same people that go to, especially nowadays, that go to, well, in the past decade, they go to concerts and they're holding up their phones to record the concert instead of being at the concert. You know, it's like, take in the energy. I mean, it's nice to be able to say, I went there, and then of course they, you know, now it seems like people need to have proof that you went there. It's like, you know, back in the day, proof was, you know, you got your concert shirts, you know, I was there, you know. Nowadays people can buy concert shirts, you know, years after the concert happened, and say, you know, and wear it, and then people go, oh, were you there? And then you gotta either have a good answer, or, you know, be seemed as a poser or something like that, you know.
I always wondered, like, when I think about, like, if Neil Peart wanted to, like, play different fills during Tom Sawyer live, and, like, the people are so expecting to hear those fills from the recording, that he was beholden to always play that song the exact same way. And that maybe that was kind of more of a prison to him than a creative expression, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, it's like, you know, I don't expect, you know, that, you know, especially if the song has very intricate parts, I don't expect a note for note anyway. Even if I was hoping for it, you know, I wouldn't be expecting it, because it's, you know, in the studio, you didn't just go in there and all of a sudden that song just came out as if, you know, you just, you know, go, okay, well, this has already been recorded, so we're just going to do it exactly, you know. So I don't know. I just think sometimes some people get the concept of a live show and sometimes they don't.
Well, oh, sorry, go ahead, Laura.
No.
I was at Roger Waters' The Wall many years ago at this point, probably 10 years ago, with Jason Hart, and there were two people behind us having a legit, like, regular conversation, just like a conversation as if they were home. And Jason turned around, he's like, we're at a concert. And they said, yeah, exactly, we're at a concert. as if like the two perspectives were totally different. You know, Jason was saying, we're at a show, please be quiet, we're listening to the music. And they're like, yeah, we're at a show, we're going to talk. It's just
right.
totally crazy.
Going back to the musical box, I saw them once, and there were two people like sharing like vacation photos with each other on the phone during the performance and speaking loudly. And I thought, well, if he really didn't want to be here, like, you don't think of the musical box crowd as people who just like wandered in to catch a show. You think these are going to be people who are serious about Genesis. It was the weirdest thing.
Oh my God, so funny. Yeah.
I think the weirdest thing that ever happened to me at a prog concert was years ago. It was in 1994 when Ekelin was on, and Ekelin, for the whole, I think that whole festival, they were the loudest and most modern sounding band.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, 94, so I was in my 30s, so guy that was like in his late 50s, I looked like, and he was like going, God, this is so loud. And I back then I kept to myself, but nowadays I would probably turn to that person as like, you're in a rock concert, right? it's gonna be loud. If you want, and any kind of concert is gonna be loud. So it's like, obviously, maybe you should go into the lobby and listen to it from there, then your ears won't get, hurt.
Sometimes you gotta bring earplugs.
Yeah.
Depending on, where you're situated, how loud the band is gonna be, you just gotta protect your eardrums sometimes.
Oh yeah. I guess he wasn't expecting it to be, because a lot of the other bands, I think a lot of them were more of I want to call them revival acts, where they brought them from, they hadn't played in a couple decades or something like that. So they're expecting something, light sounding, I don't know. Every time I've gone to prog or a rock concert, I always know it's going to be loud,
Yep.
Yeah.
I would feel cheated if it wasn't loud,
Didn't get your money's worth, of course.
Right. I think the one time I didn't bring earplugs in, and I don't know why I didn't. I went with a friend of mine to go see Motorhead. My ears were ringing for weeks afterwards. I mean, I'm like going, damn. And from that point on, I always brought them. I think it's important, some people go, well, no, you're going to miss out on something. And I say, yeah, but I want my ears to last a little longer, to hear more music,
You're always good about that, Laura. You're always looking out for your eardrums.
I am. I'm very protective of my eardrums.
Whereas I'm sort of like, give me all the music. Come on.
You are you play fast and loose with your eardrums. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it on stage, being a watcher, whatever that's called. What is it when you're watching a concert? What are you?
Fan?
Audience member. Audience member. A watcher.
That's the new.
An audience member. I don't know how you.
Yes. How many watchers are at our show tonight?
It sounds very sinister.
It does sound sinister. You're gonna hear first. It's gonna catch on. We're all gonna be watchers.
That's hilarious. I love that. I'm gonna use that all the time now.
There you go.
There were 50,000 watchers at the Paul McCartney show. Oh my God.
And now Laura's point is completely lost.
It's okay, Brian.
So for those that haven't heard your new album, tell us a little bit about it.
So, well, it was born of the pandemic. It was born of, not being able to go anywhere all of our is gigs, all of our travel, obviously canceled. And John and I have, we're married, so we had the time on our hands, and it's amazing what kind of inspiration comes from just different places. So John, I guess you can speak to where the actual inspiration came from.
Yeah, so it's an album about us. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, Laura. You're in and out a little bit. You're frozen. Yeah, you're frozen a little bit. But the album is about a specific person, or the inspiration for the album is a specific person who were being a little cagey about revealing per se. But Laura and I heard a podcast about this person, an actor, American actress, and we were just really inspired by her story and started writing lyrics and started writing music about it. And before you know it, we didn't set out to write kind of a concept album, but before you knew it, we had enough songs where we were like, oh, this is actually kind of a story about this person and what her struggles were through, in Hollywood particularly, and how she was basically kind of blacklisted from Hollywood. This is somebody in the 60s, 70s. And as we were writing the lyrics for it, we realized that it was also kind of a universal story and kind of universal story for many women in Hollywood, particularly in the, decades ago, but even still today. So the album really is focused on that and the character kind of coming to terms with what happened in her life.
That's the one thing I got to say about progressive rock music, and it is the stories you come up with are just so thought-provoking, whereas mainstream artists are so shallow. It's like, and that's what I enjoy. I mean, just even if I don't get, if it's a concept album, I don't get at first what it's all about. It's I think part of the journey of listening to it is, you get to get the bits and pieces. I mean,
right.
And I think I won't put the words in you guys' mouths, but I think that's what you want. You don't want people to get it on the first get-go, because then there's no more to explore. That.
No,
So
you're right,
like,
Rob. I think that's right. I think, and Laura can speak to this too if her internet's okay. But I think it was important to kind of have some mystery to this album, particularly for Laura, I think.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me now? Am I?
Yeah. Yeah, you're okay.
Okay.
Oh, now we lost you.
Yeah, there is a
You want to shut off? If you shut off the video, maybe the audio will be clean.
Am I here? Can you hear me?
We can kind of hear you. Why don't you turn your video off? See if you can. Yeah. Now try.
Anybody?
We can hear you. It's better.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. How do I do that? Let's see.
Sounds like someone's a feed is coming in on her.
Yeah. Maybe John's. Are you there, John? Maybe
I am
John's
here.
helping.
I am here.
Oh.
Let me see if Laura can jump on with me. Hold on.
Oh, are you in?
We're actually in separate cars. Hilariously, but
Technology.
just we happen to be in different places earlier, but maybe Laura can join me.
I will say while you're doing that I think it's interesting that Is in general, I think, has been more of a band focused on spiritual issues and not political issues, so to speak. But the fact that we've found inspiration through historical topics recently has been sort of our way of being political, because we're looking at sort of key moments that have interested us in history and are kind of commenting on it that way, like with 42, which, you know, obviously we're addressing racism by talking about Jackie Robinson's story, but this album touches a lot on, you know, women's issues and, you know, using a woman in Hollywood, but it's, you know, there's a more universal idea about women's voices and women in politics and how that has been seen as threatening. And so it's nice to kind of, as you say, you know, the progressive rock artists try to, you know, look for topics that maybe aren't just, you know, a love song or something mundane. We're trying to speak to something a little grander, a little bit more nuanced and complex.
Right.
Yeah.
Out there.
Okay. Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing that progressive rock gives you, or progressive rock, art rock, any kind of like left of center music creation gives you the space to explore themes and really get down to like just getting to a level that you wouldn't get to on like a surface like rock song. And not that there's anything wrong with the surface rock song, because they have their place, but with progressive rock being like the home that you can like, okay, I really want to go deep with this, and then you can. That's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, you know, just all these different subject matter that progressive rock bands have done over the years. It's just, I mean, you can say, you know, spiritual, political, and, you know, topics, but, you know, if you're basically, it's all human.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, everything is. Yeah. And, but, you know, sometimes, you know, we need to learn about subjects, you know, historical subjects that have, for whatever reason, have been kept out of our history books.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're going back to something in a few days. It's going I think, yeah, in a few days it's going to be a historical event that happened that I'm going to say I'm ashamed that I didn't even know.
Are you talking about Juneteenth?
Mm-hmm. I had no idea about it because it was kept out of history book. It was in
none of my history books growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, only as an adult did I learn about it. Yeah.
I honestly, this is just the weirdest place that I heard about it is through art. Through two TV shows, The Watchmen and Lovecraft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's where I heard about it. And while that's great that I heard about it, but I should have read it in the history books. And that's why, you know, art, I think, has that, in a way, the obligation of going into, you know, picking out subjects that, you know, that the general public doesn't know about, and bringing it up to the surface so everybody knows about it. And
and I actually think that that's one of the reasons why we wrote this album was because this person's story. We want people to kind of dig a little bit and get into the mystery and maybe discover who that person is and discover that story for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's, you know, that, I mean, something that probably no one, you know, a majority of probably even film buffs probably wouldn't even know it.
Exactly.
It's very true. And in the album, throughout the songs, there are enough clues or hints, or there's enough there that you can mine through it, you can dig through it. if you wanted to, and you could, you know, figure out the mystery or not, or you could have it be what it is. You can just put your own thoughts or own experiences to it. But if you wanted to, you could find it out, which I think is also a great, it's a great choice. It's a great option to have.
Right. Yeah. That's, I think that's one of the things about concept albums is, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's probably out there some really blatant concept albums where they tell you the story. They don't let you,
Right.
you know, find it out for yourself. You know, I like that in music and, you know, in movies where it's like, you know, I don't want to figure it out the first listen or the first watch, you know, because then afterwards, you know, the album will become kind of boring, you know,
Right.
because you already figured it out. You know, it's like, okay, you know,
Right.
It's no longer fun. You know, it's the whole fun of you know, finding out what the band or what the lyricist was
Mm-hmm.
try to convey to, you know, to their audience, you know.
Totally.
Then you have The Lamb, which he even wrote liner notes, and I still don't know if I understand them.
Now that's one
Very true.
that's one I'm still, you know, I think with a lot of those concept albums in the 70s, they probably had some extra help,
Yes.
That's a good way to put it.
you know, where, you
Yeah.
know, whereas nowadays it's like there's so much subjects out there that you can touch upon that no one's touched,
I know.
you know.
Yep.
So it's like, you know,
Yeah.
so it's in kind of in a way, you know, you're like a teacher, you know.
Yeah.
You know, granted, you know, but you're not like, you know, forcing it down people's throats, so to speak.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, you're just, you know, so it's like I think that's fantastic that, you know, you guys are doing that. You know, you're being teachers and bringing out subject matters that, you know, that actually, you know, that matter, that
Yeah.
they should matter.
I love how you just called, you mentioned teachers. I think that's a great way, because we've done a ton of research on this person, on this era in time. So, and we've presented it mostly factual, but obviously with creative license and with our own experience. But it really is like, okay, presenting this to you so that you learn about it, and then you maybe will tell someone else and share it with someone else. So saying teacher, that's very clever.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
and the band is made up of some teachers, so I think
That's
that instinct
true.
Very true.
to kind of take that role is there, whether it's intentional or not. I think it probably bleeds through a bit.
Oh, you're right, Brian.
Good point.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something. After I got the last is out,
Mm-hmm.
you were saying 42 has something to do with Jackie Robinson. Well, when you had that "Don't Panic" up top, and then the 42, my mind went to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Well, that's there too.
Yeah, and I was like going, yeah, wow, you know, it's like, and then that 42 just kind of just rang throughout my head, you know, it's like going, wow.
Well, the
There are
fun
many
thing
layers.
that CD came together in a really fun way, because I think we were exploring a lot of different things, and the confluence of like the 42 theme, I correct me if I'm wrong, but it was almost like a surprise. Like we were working on these different things and realizing, oh, this can tie to this and this, and it became almost like a concept of like patterns in nature, and how there are certain connections, mysterious connections between things in the world. And so we were able to bring, like, you know, Adams and the Hitchhiker's Guide in there, and we're able to bring like physics and bizarre like esoteric mathematic topics and historical topics, and we were kind of able to find a synthesis between them. So that was really fun, and I feel almost like it was a surprise to us, like an accident.
It was an accident. It was. Yeah. I mean, Tom and I were writing the song 42 before Douglas Adams even came into my. I'm ashamed to say I had not read that book before, but we had been writing the song 42 about Jackie Robinson, and I was in the middle of reading The Hitchhiker's Guide, and I got to the part about 42, and I was sort of like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is amazing. And so then we had to write the song Don't Panic.
Yeah, that was a perfect right off the back, and it's like, because I always like those 2 words, don't panic. I mean, it's like,
it's great. It's great.
It's sometimes it's almost like telling you to panic,
You're right.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's it's great that each album you have I want to say your signature sound, but each album is so different from the previous one that, I mean, you guys have the progressive idea of, it's like, don't stay in the same place after each album. And that's what I kind of, there's some bands, I won't go into, names, but there are some bands out there that sounds like they're reproducing their same albums over and over again, obviously different lyrics to it, but it's, it's like, it sounds, I'll have either like the same beginnings, the same middle passages and the same endings, and it's like,
becomes like a formula. It's like, oh, this is how we write our album. We have this kind of intro, this kind of middle section, this kind of I have no interest in doing that at all. That bores me.
Right. I mean, it's like, and I think that's in a way, not only is it insulting to the audience, but it's also kind of insulting to yourself, because you're not allowing yourself to grow.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, if that's the case, then, write a couple, your albums, with a bunch of 4 or 5 minute songs and, call it good there. It's like, but when you're trying to create something that's, an art, you can't have the same, it's like, you can't have 50 Mona Lisas, you just gotta have something different each time, something that, okay, this is, but they're doing something than the previous albums. So.
Well, I mean, the progressive rock fandom is very interesting, because you could definitely see there's these 2 camps, and there are these people who really feel like, and I mean, no disrespect by this, but there are people who definitely see the sort of a gatekeeper relationship to the genre. This is prog, this isn't prog, and it's very hard to appeal to that audience, because if you step too far outside of what they recognize as this is progressive rock, they'll say, well, they've strayed, they're not a prog band anymore, this is a pop album, or this is a electronica, whatever. They're gonna find a reason to say you've moved too far away. So you can choose to be like a slave to that, or you can say, well, we need to follow what's going to be, we're going to be passionate about. We're going to follow our muses and create music that interests us, and you hope that the fans follow along.
Exactly. That's, I think those people that, like I was saying earlier, that they're stuck in the 70s. And it's like, and that's fantastic, but you're not being progressive anymore. You're only going to a certain point and stopping, you don't want to go past that, almost, I mean, I don't know if they're afraid to, or afraid that the audience is gonna, not accept it. But the whole thing is each album's, are supposed to be, you know.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think of, there's always a little voice. If you're an artist, well, I guess I can only speak for me, but in the back, there's a little voice in the back of your head always that thinks while you're writing, are the fans gonna like this? Like, there's that little thing, and I really try my best to shut it off. And I think I do when I write and when we record, because you cannot think about that. You cannot think what the reception is going to be. You can only think about what is true to the writing of it. But if you're thinking like, oh, I'm gonna write so that someone, a fan's gonna write a good review about my album or something, that I think that destroys the whole point of making music.
I think they'd actually probably pick up more on if we were doing something according to a formula, or we were really trying to like cater to some kind of crowd. I think that would come off as more disingenuous than if we, like, I know that when we did Everlasting Instant, there are people who didn't think that was, like, they were disappointed because they love, Crush of Night, or they love Darkened Room, and they felt like, well, but I think you couldn't accuse us of having done that to try to appease a fandom. Right. That was just where we were at that time. And that music, to me, is still very true to where our head was at that time in our history. So I don't feel any regret about that, although I know some people say, well, it's not my favorite Is album. But I think that it was still us following, the passions that were there at the time. So Agreed. I still feel very happy about that CD.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, like I'm saying, I don't, I like that they're different, and it's like, and also too is, your inspirations when you wrote one, The Darkening Room is not going to be the same as the ones that happened before or after. It's like it's like it's just where you are at the time is where you get inspired from. And, exactly. I mean, it's like, dude, it's like, I think I heard a story years ago. After the band Kansas released Left Overture, or and the record label wanted them to do that same album again.
Right.
And I think it was that album, or the one Overture, which was one, but anyways, they wanted to do it. They wanted the same one because it had those hits on it, and it's like they go, no, we don't do it that way.
Right, that's not how it works.
If a hit comes out of the album, that's fantastic.
Of course,
but if you're gonna be, in the progressive rock genre, if you're gonna look to, create hits for every album, then maybe you should think less on progressive rock and think more to mainstream, and you can cater, then that's perfect. But I don't even think with some mainstream bands their hits are their best, what they are.
Right.
Agreed.
Hey Ron, Laura and I are gonna have to log off.
Okay.
But this has been awesome.
Yeah, when you guys
so
come up with some more music, please,
absolutely,
let me know, and we'll do this again.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much. This is a blast.
Oh, thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
And I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Of course.
All right. Thanks, we'll talk to you all soon. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.